Well, hi, everybody. This is Dave Johnson, and I've got the good pleasure of having our inaugural, for me, Google Plus, and I've got my friend Leanne McLean, and we met because you called me just shortly after the leadership convention. Could you tell your story, why you called me, and the effect that that meeting had on you?
Well, how it all started, I got introduced to Nikken 14 years ago, and I used to use magnets on my horses for about 15 years before that. So the person that introduced me thought that maybe the Nikken products would be a benefit to me and the animals. So I was introduced, and I started to compare what I was using before against the Nikken ones, and found out that Nikken's technology was far superior to what I'd been using. So I started using it, and I experimented on my husband and my kids first because I didn't want to hurt the animals. So and I could get feedback from them, the two-legged people. So we proved to ourselves over and over that Nikken was really great. I signed up really just to become a wholesale customer. I wanted to be able to get more products for my money, so that's how it started. My husband worked in the oil field at that time. We ran a stable on our farm, and so we were very busy, and my husband would go out into the oil field with his back flex and his mag steps, and he'd come home at night and he wouldn't have them anymore. So I started buying more and more stuff, and because it did so much for us, we talked to everybody that we seen, and it just grew into a business. So within, I think it was a little less than 4 years, I was platinum, and I had a big organization, and everything was going really well, and I was building, I was excited. And then, I guess, to make a long story short, life kind of got in the way. My son took over the racehorse business, so I was kind of doing stuff at home, and I kind of quit doing the business building. And it sustained itself for quite a while, but then, you know, people started dropping off and the income started going down. So I made the decision. Carol Gordon called me and says, "Do you think we should go to the convention?" And I said, "Yeah, I think we should, because I have to decide if I want to do this or I don't want to do it. It had to be one or the other." And in the meantime, I'm always retailing product. That's not the option. I retail a lot of product, but I'm not building an organization. So went to the convention, and it was like everybody there was talking directly to me. I guess because I was in the right frame of mind, but it was not a candy-coated convention by any means. They were down to the point and blunt about what we had to do to get on with our business, and I come home and I'm getting at it. So that's when I phoned you.
You know, what's kind of cool is Mark Ralston, another platinum, pretty much a very similar story, a guy that had been dormant for years, and he went there and he had this epiphany just like you, and he's back in the saddle too. So it's pretty exciting. In fact, we're getting a lot of calls that it's just a wake up. People are aware, and I think when I look around, it is kind of scary times with what's going on, you know, just worldwide, recessionary periods. The idea of entrusting your future to a big corporation is getting more and more ridiculous. That's not the way to go. Increasing regulations and different things like that is pinching out business ownership, and yet if you really have the desire to go forward, business ownership is the way to go, and it's just looking more and more like Nikken is not just a good choice, but it is perhaps the only way for a sensible person with a lot of ambition to look at all of the variables, and everything is just pointed in the right direction for us in a whole wide scope of it. We all know that the health industry is going to grow bigger and bigger just because all the baby boomers are getting older, but as a fellow baby boomer, I don't want to grow old. I want to fight it all the way. And I think that's really within the health industry. That's probably if we could call that a category, anti-aging, fighting the ravages of getting older. And there's a lot of things that you can do that can successfully postpone that. And we're right in the middle of all of those things, the lifestyle choices, the technologies and solutions. This really is the right place at the right time, and it's built into just a superb business where instead of building a business by bringing on more and more employees with the scary responsibilities of those that you get stuck with in bureaucracy, you can have a big organization and you don't have any employees. It just, boy, if you got a piece of paper and wrote down all the things that you'd love in a business and all the reasons why you'd want to have a business and all that kind of stuff, Nikken has it. And if you got another piece of paper and wrote why I shouldn't, or what's wrong with a business of my own, or the setbacks, Nikken doesn't have any of those. It's truly all of the good and none of the bad, and then some. It just and then couple all that around something that's just happens to be a hobby that pays extremely well, because it doesn't really feel like work. And so I'm just glad you're back with us, and I think we ought to go for it. And I would like to just kind of share some of the fundamental ideas, because if you go to events like this, be really careful, because you might get excited. And if you hang around successful people and continue to do that, it's just a really powerful thing. And so I think one of the most important things is something. I had an interview just yesterday with Erin Miller, and I'm going to be putting her on the Call of a Leader podcast. And she's had the good fortune for many years of being personally tutored and mentored by the leadership guru John Maxwell. In fact, I asked her, I said, how many of his books have you read? And she said, all of them. And that's 72 plus the new manuscript of his new book that's just come out. She's read that already. And I thought, wow, this is powerful stuff, but what would happen if you read all of these books? And then I asked her, I said, what is your favorite book? And she said, Today Matters. And I thought, what a wonderful title. And we talked a little bit about that, and she mentioned that John told her in her earlier days of studying with him that he could go and spend a day with anybody, and he would accurately predict whether that person was successful or was going to be successful or not, just by that one particular day. And she asked how, and he basically went on and just talked about that that you can see the attitudes, and also that everything doesn't happen in one fell swoop. It's just the daily accumulation of those little things that happen in one day, and then it's multiplied. And it's astonishing what can happen if you take one really good day and make it into a really good one. And since I'm on a roll here, maybe just kind of talk a little bit about another book that really affected me a lot. And this is a book that goes way back into the late 1940s. And this is How I Raised Myself from Success, from Failure to Success in Selling, by Frank Bettger. And he talks about how he was just a miserable failure in the world of selling. And he went into the office to kind of clean out his desk and take off. And right when that happened, he was all of a sudden intimidated by all of the other salespeople that came in. And the more they talked, the more discouraged he got, because they were talking about all the success that they were having. And he just felt just deep, dark clouds of despair hanging over him, because he realized he could never do what they were doing. And he just got so depressed. But he just sat there and took it, because he was afraid to kind of walk out with the stuff in his desk and they know that he was a quitter. And then a little while later, Walter Talbot, the owner of that company, came in. And as the president of that company, he had a really interesting story. He started, and back in those days, a lot of people never really had the benefits of schooling. And so he left school when he was something like 12 years old, and went to work for that company in the mailroom, and worked his way up, and there he was, the president of the company. And he knew everything, the insides and outside, and he was loved and respected by everyone, including Frank Betker. And he listened for quite a while to all of these great conquests that the salespeople were making, and then he stopped and he said something that completely changed Frank's whole life. He said, you know, it really isn't that big a deal what you guys are talking about, because he said, in my years of experience, you show me anybody that will just go out and tell their story to 4 or 5 people each and every day, and I'll show you someone that just can't help but make good in this business. And when he heard that, he just thought, my goodness, I've never done that before. It just hit him that, you know, the idea that it really hadn't worked. And he made this commitment. In fact, he just got angry inside himself. He said, Frank Betker, you've got 2 good legs, and you can go out and you can tell your story to 4 or 5 people each and every day. And he made a log, and he tracked it, and he made that commitment, and he became the top salesman in that company. And wow, that just got me pretty excited thinking about that. Along that line, I've thought about the Nikken business, because the thing that I love about Nikken is we have a wonderful story to tell. It's just obvious that these products work. They really do. And there's a market for them. We literally, of all the businesses I've looked at, we have something that everybody needs and nobody has it yet, and they can only get it from you. And so all we have to do is go out and tell the story. You know, just as an example, a church, there's a new couple that moved in, and he's the CFO of this big corporation. They moved into a big fan, and so we just started talking and said, hey, we ought to go out together sometime. And so we did a double date last Friday, and we're at a restaurant, and I'm asking him about his business and everything, and then he says, well, what do you do? And I started talking a little bit about Nikken, and I told my story, and he said, you know, we've got a daughter that has MS and some problems, and then he says, you know, I've got this really sore shoulder, and it's really hurting. I'd be interested. And so I called him at the end of last week, and he said, you know, my daughter and her husband are coming over for dinner. Why don't you just come over and show your stuff? And so I went over there and brought the pad, rolled out the daughter, and she loved it, of course. He had a power mag on his shoulder while we're doing that. He says, oh my goodness, it's working. And so, oh, you know, after all of these years, it's still fun to do that. And it just, you know, everybody I talk to, they haven't heard about it. And so many people have problems, and they're looking for answers. And I think if I could just be like Frank Betker and talk to 4 or 5 people, and Nikken is more than just sales. It's actually building a team. And so I like to think in my mind, going along with John Maxwell, his idea of he can predict whether you're going to be successful or not by just examining what you do in a day. What would you do if you had, let's say there's 5 things that you do that are essential activities. I would say number 1 is talk to people, but also within that, after you talk to them, the main thing would be get them to want to look at what you have, and that could be giving them a CD, it could be doing an ABC or a one-on-one, or asking them to look at a web presentation. All of these are activities that I think are very, very valuable. And so the first thing would be, like we had that dinner, and so I went over, the first thing was the approach. The next thing is I went over and demonstrated the product. Also, I left a couple of CDs and a DVD with them. The next thing is follow-up, of course. But other activities would be, you know, actually making a sell of the product. Another would be getting a good referral from somebody. I think that's an essential skill. If you learn how to get referrals, you have yourself tapped into a virtually infinite resource. Other people, because there's millions of them out there. And if you learn how to work referrals, you'll never run out of people. And as long as you have more people than time, then you're on a roll and things work out really good. And so I would say, like, if you said, okay, I'm going to have a good Nikken day today, and you made, say, 2 new contacts with people, made an appointment with one, followed up on someone else, and they bought some mag steps, and maybe you sponsored somebody, and you kind of thought, wow, I've got 5 really quality activities. Would that be a successful day?
Yeah, that would be a good day.
And what if you did that the next day, and the next day, and the next day? A Royal Diamond is somebody that's had lots of really good days, and that's all it is. And I would just like you guys to think about that, and then make the commitment to have a really good, successful Nikken day today. You know, not tomorrow. Well, of course I want you to have one tomorrow, but that's tomorrow. There's great power in this moment, and so don't just think about it. Do it. Go for it.
Yeah.
So anyway, I was on a little bit of a roll right there, but Leanne, what say you? What are you up to right now?
Well, I'm busy talking to everybody, but with a little bit different agenda. One thing that, you know, like you said, going and talking to people, one thing that I've found over the years is if I think of somebody, like an old friend or an acquaintance, if I phone them right then, it's usually because they need something that I have to offer. And so I found kind of just to follow my intuition. If that person's name pops into my head, if I can at all do it, sit down, grab the phone, try and get hold of them, because usually at that point they're having some kind of issues, or a family member's having issues, and I may have a solution. And when I do that, it seems to really work well, rather than you know, just trying to schedule, okay, I'm going to phone Sally on Thursday, but if I think of Sally on Wednesday, maybe I better phone her Wednesday, because maybe she's needing something a little earlier. So I'm talking to everybody I run into using Facebook, and one thing that I did discover when I was at the convention, when everybody's going across the stage as new silvers and new golds and new platinums, and I was sitting there and I realized how many of those people that I had done three-way calls for, that they had phoned me and enlisted me to do a three-way. And then I thought, you know, I can count on one hand in my whole Nikken career how many times I have used someone for a three-way. And so that's what initiated me calling you the first time, was to get you to do a three-way for me. And that person has signed up.
That is so cool. That happens. Three-ways are so powerful.
Yeah,
if you're not doing three-ways, you're crazy.
Yeah, and I guess it only took me 14 years to get it, but, you know, better late than never.
Hey, and it's not too late. The wonderful thing about Nikken is it's a very forgiving business, and we'll let you start all over. And in fact, with all of the circumstances that are going on, Nikken is a brand new company. So much so that all of us over the years have gotten these calls that, hey, this won't compete a bit with what you're doing, but blah 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 blah. And I've always thought, oh man. And so with the new compensation plan we got, the revamping of all of our products, just the wonderful leadership team that we have corporate-wise, and all of the things that are going on, I've been trying it myself. I've been calling up some of my old people just to have fun, and I'll call them up and I'll say, hey, I never imagined that I would be making this call. But here I am. I've done it. I just got involved in a ground floor opportunity, and that's why I'm calling you, because I just have to share. I really believe you're going to be interested in it. It's Nikken. And they say, oh, what? And I just talk about how this powerful compensation plan that we've just been given that changes the whole game. To me, everybody can play now, because it's just so realistic. What is required to do that, and the plan that's been very carefully engineered to direct people and guide them in building a really strong, stable business, especially if you're starting brand new with this plan. It's just such a beautiful thing, and just more than ever, you know, the products, everything we have is so relevant today that it is a chance, and it's very empowering to be able to just think, you know what, it is so different. I'm just going to get my old list, my original friends, and I'm just going to go down and talk to every one of them again. And then another tactic that I've found that's very successful, I've actually made millions from this, and I recommend it. It's called groveling and begging. And I'll give you the script here. You call up somebody that loves you, a friend or a relative, and just say, I need your help. I called to ask a personal favor. This would mean so much to me. I'm launching my business again, and I need your help because I'm looking for 2 or 3 really good people. And of course, I'm talking to you because we're friends, or you're my sister, and I love you and you love me. But also, you are a good person, and it takes one to know one. You're a good person, so you know good people. So what I'm asking for is, would you give me 3 names of people that have really good personalities and they're ambitious and self-motivated? Would you do that for me? It'd mean everything. Lay that all out like that, and you'll get some names, and some of those are the best names that you'll have.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I'll have to try that one.
Another thing, you're talking about something that I really believe there's something to this, how we're somehow spiritually or mentally interconnected with each other, and there's so often these stories of where you think about somebody and then the phone rings and they're calling you, or vice versa. And I'm glad to hear that you're following those promptings, because I think that can be golden moments for this business. And I've always excuse me, I've always looked at this business as not just a job, but something that's just on a higher level, that this is a stewardship, that this is a noble mission to be on. And when I was looking for Nikken, I was really anxiously looking for some direction in my life. I was broke, and I had to go back and get a job that I hated, and I had what I kind of like to call inspirational dissatisfaction. But we were in in despair. And so I was just saying my prayers and looking and hoping and searching. And when Nikken came along, I just felt in a very special way that this was an answer to my prayers. And I got thinking along that I'm not that different than anybody else. If I was praying for something, there's a lot of desperate people out there looking and hoping and searching and praying. And so my strategy, as I started praying to be led to those people, that maybe Nikken might be the answer for them, like it was for me. And as I would go out and see somebody, I'd just offer one more little prayer to be guided, that I wouldn't mumble or stumble or say the wrong thing, that if they're supposed to see this, that I'll say the right things that they will, and that I'll be able to help them. And if you kind of think that in your mind, that this is a noble calling, and you're really going to give it your best shot with each person that you see, they'll feel that you really care, that you have their interests at heart, and you'll just treat it more serious, and then you just go out there and then you do that 5 every day, which will make you alive. How can you not make it? It's just such a, all of a sudden you realize, this could happen. It will happen. And then of course, when's the best time to make a sale? Right after you've made a sale. And so success breeds success, and you just get on this roll, and you just become a human magnet where people are attracted to you, and it just starts snowballing. And it's so much more fun to live that way, rather than thinking, oh man, I gotta go out and see if I can get some more people, but I'm not gonna quit. I'm gonna hang in there. Those kind of feelings do not attract anybody. That people that don't sell very well, people that are kind of in a downturn, they don't smell good, and that makes them so they smell even worse, and they're just down spiraling. And so get plugged into some people. Do 3 ways, and say your prayers, and just make the decision that you're going to go for it. So anyway, those are some thoughts I have about this, if you're asking.
Well, and yeah, I think, like, being in as long as I have, of course, I've talked to a lot of people, and I'm just from a little town. Like, we have right around 1,000 people. in our town. It's a rural community, farming and oil field. So, you know, I've talked to everybody, a lot of people for 14 years. And it's funny how now, all of a sudden, some of them are listening. Or they're coming to me and saying, you're still in that. I talked to 2 people on Facebook, just chatted with them the last 2 days, and both of them have commented on me staying with Nikken this long, and that maybe they should have had a look at it. And just like you said, Dave, I said, well, it's never too late, you know, for your health and for your finances, it's never too late. So now I have 2 people that I need to do some 3-ways with. So yeah, it's when you make up your mind you're going to do it, the people kind of come along, or maybe they're just open to seeing it.
Yeah, and that's not a shame, being in something a long time. That's actually quite a wonderful thing. I was helping a lady do a ABC last week, and we met, and this guy, he's just really awesome. He's a personal coach. He does lots of neat things, and he's been in several different network marketing opportunities, and they've fallen apart. And one of his first questions is, he said, how long have you been in Nikken? And I said, well, only 22 years. And he was very impressed, because you'll see a lot of people that have done really well for, you know, gotten a few of those big checks, but year after year after year, it's just so thrilling. And that's what I told him. I said, this is a wonderful company. You join us, this will be the last company you'll ever have to join. And that's such a thrilling feeling, you know, knowing that you don't have to worry about that. And so it's fun to have staying power. And also, I always tell people that probably one of the best things I can share with you is, after 22 years, I'm more excited now than ever. Most people that have done something 10 or especially 20 years, it really isn't that fun anymore. But every day is a new day, because you got somebody new to talk to, and each new person you meet could possibly open up a whole new world of possibilities because of the networking and how it reaches out, and you might get a whole bunch of new friends and have that wonderful feeling that you're making a difference. So,
well, and changing somebody's life, that is, I think that's the biggest thrill of anything. Like, I do a lot of work with animals too, and I've done 3-way calls with people about, you know, what would I do, like, you know, should they use. I always tell them what I would do if it was my horse or my dog or whatever. And, you know, I get cards in the mail, I get emails back about, thank you, you saved my horse's life. And then one of my first silvers that I ever that I had, I'll never forget, one day she gave me a big hug and she said, thank you for changing my life. You know, and those things you never forget, and you know, they just keep coming. So the thrill is just finding them so you can help them.
You know, I'm just kind of an aside. I've got a friend. He's a neighbor, and he's come over a couple of times, and I've demonstrated the waterfall to him. That's one of my favorite products, because everybody already knows that the water's bad and they're doing something. And he was sold, but his wife kind of makes the decisions. And I happened to be over at their house a week or so ago, and you know, he really wanted to get it, but she kind of resisted. Well, they've got 2 dogs and a couple of cats, and they mentioned that the cats were old, and cats, when they get older, they get kidney problems, and so I told them that this water is magical. What it does for cats in renal failure, it can really bring them back. And so she was resisting for herself, but as soon as I mentioned that to the cat, they order one. So that was kind of fun.
Yeah, that's
she came over to my house. Yeah, we filled up a couple of Siaga bottles with the water to kind of spare them, so the cat could start drinking it while they waited for their order. And anyway, they're really excited about their new machine. It's and it's helping the cat. So. Yeah, that's it. I mean, when you can do things on the animals, like we used to do what was called a horse wellness preview, and when you showed it on the animals,
there's no placebo. You can't tell a big, 1,200-pound horse that, okay, now you have to flinch and now you don't. They are either better or they're not. And like we have race horses, and they all have their own Nikken sleep systems. They have blankets with far infrared and magnets in them, and we use magnets on their legs. And when we take those blankets off and lay them on the ground, the goats, the dogs, the cats, everybody's on them. Like, animals and little kids gravitate to it. So it's real. It's not a placebo when all the animals do is want to have that. We had an old goat that was pretty stowed up, and she used to go into the tack room and always pull my far infrared. I'd made a far infrared saddle pad out of the little travel comforter, and she would pull that off the saddle and lay on the floor with it. And she never touched another one. Just that was the only one that she would go and get. That's
fascinating. What's your if you could say what's your very favorite story that you've had happen?
No, very favorite. Well, probably would be the first one that introduced us. When I first got introduced to Nikken, the lady that come to our house brought a demo pack and some products, and we had one we just set on the couch. I think it was just a pet pad. And anyways, our little dog, who was at that time 14, and she was getting close to blind and pretty deaf, so we weren't thinking she was going to be around too much longer. But she would just go, we were trying to do rollouts on the floor. That's what we were trying to do, rollouts on the floor, and this little dog just kept getting on the rollout pad, and we'd take her off, and 2 minutes later she'd be back on there, and she even started growling at us when we would try to take her off of it. So the lady that came had a pet pad. She went and got it. We put it on the couch. The dog never hardly got off the couch for the 3 days she was there. But at the end of the 3 days, she was then jumping down off the couch and back on by herself, which she hadn't done in a long time. We had Cleo for another 2 years after that. She even actually had a puppy, which we still have now. His name's Tank, and we call him our little miracle dog because she was 14 when she had him. So that one proved to us right off the bat. That was kind of the nail in the coffin that got us into Nikken strong, was that little dog.
Well, that's neat. That's neat.
And then lots of horses. Like we've had, like I said, we use it as just like we do ourselves. Our family sleeps on the sleep systems. We drink the water. We have the air. We have everything. And for our horses that compete, we do the same thing. We give them the best that we can. If they have everything like we do, and they just aren't good enough competitors, then we find them another home. But at least we've did that knowing that they've had every possible chance they could. When I see people, walking down the street and they're kind of limping or holding this or holding that, you think how much better they would be if they just felt a little better, if we had products on them that would just help them out. So that's the plan, get them all talked to.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I just think about we should all have a dream, and kind of going back to John Maxwell, I kind of still thinking about him after that interview yesterday, but he talks about that if you have a really dream of doing something, and all the variables you have control of those, then your dream is very realistic. And I think about the Nikken dream. What are the variables? Dream. And I think, okay, Nikken used to have this pie graph, and they would talk about the variables, like the industry. What kind of industry are you in? What direction is it going? The company itself, the products that you have, the training and support, the compensation plan, all of these factors are part of the variables that can affect how realistic your dream is. And I just think about this moment right now. It's such a special moment for a lot of business, especially if you're just in an average person doing average things, and this is scary. And I tell people, don't be average, don't be ordinary. Get involved in an extraordinary opportunity and make a decision to be, you know, a high achiever within that, and you're going to have a happy, abundant life. But I think, okay, these products, they're unsurpassed. They're addressing aspects that are lots of problems out there. In fact, if you talk to a doctor, they'll tell you that the #1 reason people seek medical attention is pain. And what do they do for pain? Not a lot of really exciting things. Some of the biggest side effects are the pain meds. And
Yeah.
so, wow. And most of those meds, they don't really fix you. They just make it so you don't care you got that problem. and so, wow, if you can help somebody, and you look around there's a lot of people that have not only been in car wrecks or have some kind of itis or had a bad fall. There's just all kinds of reasons for, you know, pulling a joint or something that's sore, and it's so fun to consistently share these products, and more often than not, right there before your eyes. I would say probably 75–80% of the time they have a remarkable benefit right there during the demo, and I think, wow, this could really be a business out here. So all the things, you know, they're just an immeasurable market. The opportunities now, and it's unsurpassed, this opportunity. So I think we ought to go out there, and then add that to that. I see a lot of people that are just looking for something to believe in. They're looking for guidance. Where can I put my energy? Where can I accumulate and do something? And I think this is just a wonderful moment right now. And just around the corner is a whole new year before us, 2013. And as we begin 2013, we'll be totally immersed inside this new compensation plan. So get to understand that, learn how it works, and put it to work. But basically what it is find 2 or 3 really good people that you'd love to have as friends anyway, that are just ambitious and hungry, and connect them to your upline, your active upline, and just start working with them. When I got into Nikken, my direct sponsor really didn't know very much, and personality-wise, we didn't really click. But his sponsor was already successful. He was making $20,000 a month in selling magnets from Japan, and he was just a really nice guy. I loved him, and he was just so easy to talk to. And I just made the decision right there. I thought, you know what? I'm just going to call him every day. And in fact, I never shared this with him, but my inside goal was I was going to have everybody else call in too. My team was going to be one of his key people, and he was going to go. He was going to be so busy with my people, he would never ever have time to ever sponsor anybody himself again, because he'd be just too busy wrapped up with my team. And I think I pretty much fulfilled that. But it was fun, and we made him a lot of money, so it worked out just fine. So anyway,
Yeah.
get plugged in with people that are going somewhere. I think that's one of the best things, and do those 3 ways. What you were talking about, Leanne, I've got a good friend here in town, and we were discussing that. I would use him as a 3-way 2 or 3 times a week, and in years I'd say, you know, you've never used me. I'm pretty good at 3 ways. I'd love to reciprocate. In fact, he was in my downline, so I ought to be able to help him. I should help him. That'd be the right thing to do. You know, but I would sure use him. He was good.
Yeah.
But I'm a good 3-wayer too.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, but I don't know. I guess like I said, it was quite a eye opener when I realized, you know, that what was really going on, and it was a key thing that I missed all those years. So yeah, now look out, because I'm going to be phoning.
All right. So what are the key things that are just absolutely essential? Obviously, it's you know, talk to people. Reed Nelson some years ago made a talk, and it was available, and I would love to have that re-released, but it was called "Say Less to More People." Yeah. And and a wit. They looked at that and they said, too many people are saying nothing to everyone.
Yeah, you got to say it a little bit.
Yeah, say a little bit to lots of people. But that's mostly what it is. It's just a game where if you talk to more people, there's magic and power in the numbers. Just the power of large numbers, and then also that which we persist in doing becomes easier because of the practice. Yeah. And so we get better at it, and we get more likely to succeed just by the sheer numbers, and that just becomes an absolute certainty that you'll succeed in it if you just talk to enough people, because you'll hit those few really choice people, and that's all you need.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing too, I remember reading, you probably will know who said it, but it's also that people say no 6 or 7 times before they say yes. And that's what I'm finding is in here, just in our little town, is like I said, I've talked to people for years and years, and now all of a sudden it's their time in their life that they're open to listening now, and they want more information. Way back 14 years ago, they didn't have a need. Now they have a need.
Yeah. Yeah, if you go to a restaurant and the waitress says, "Would you like dessert?" You might say no, but I'll bet you if you go the next time, they'll probably ask you again. And and there might be one of those moments where you would like to have some dessert. And I think the critical thing on this is you don't have to be a stalker. You don't have to, people talk about barfing Nikken on people. Just be reserved and be friendly with it, confident, and give people an opportunity. On good friends and people like that, you can even say, hey, I want to share this with you, but it's on one condition, that if this doesn't feel like the right fit for you, I want you to have the courage to be able to tell me no, because we still want to be friends, but that's just fine if you're not interested. And so you don't have to ruffle feathers or make anybody mad to do this business. You certainly don't want friends to hide when they see you coming. This is something wonderful, and so you don't have to push it on anybody. You're just looking for people that are looking for you, is my attitude. And so, if you have to drag somebody in, then you got to drag them around, and that's just too much work. So look for people that want it, and just have the joy in helping them.
Yeah, that's for sure. I know when I first got started, I knew it worked, and I could prove it worked, but it didn't matter. Sometimes that wasn't enough. Like, some people just still weren't interested, but I kind of thought I had to make sure they were. But I've learned now that, like you say, when it's their time, it's their time, and we just have to be respectful of that.
And my feeling also, Leanne, is if you really kind of think about it, wherever you go in any industry, any opportunity, if you can make 6 figures or more, probably it's going to take a lot of work. Easy things just don't pay much, and so don't ask for it to be easy. If you're thinking, I'm going to make 6 figures in this, or better yet, 6 figures a month, just plan on it taking some time and some effort, because that's just the way it is. If it was easy, then it wouldn't pay much. Nikken is very easy, low pay work, and it's hard, high pay work, and you can pick, and anything in between. And so if you just kind of think, okay, I went and talked to 3 people, and all 3 of them said no, expect that, because not everybody's going to say yes. If they did, they certainly wouldn't be needing to pay us 6 figures or anything at all. All you'd need is a warehouse in the middle of town, and people would be standing in line to get the stuff if it was easy. But we have to go out and share this and show and tell, and it's fun, but it does take the numbers and some work. And so I look at no's as job security. That means that good, it's still hard. That means Nikken still needs me, and they'll pay me real well if I can go out and do that. So that's a thing I like to have people think about. It's fun, it's wonderful. Learn not to take the no's personal, just like the waitress. When you say no, I wouldn't care for dessert, she doesn't burst into tears and run out of the room. She just thinks, well, I guess not hungry for, maybe on a diet or something like that. They just don't take it personal, and you shouldn't either in the Nikken business. We're just looking again for somebody that needs what we have, and my feeling is I want to tell the story. I want to bring the dessert tray out and say how wonderful it is, and then if you say no, you missed out. But it's your fault, not mine, because I mumbled or stumbled on it. I painted a good picture.
Yeah. Well, and I kind of look at it too as the only people I feel real bad about is people that I never got a chance to talk to before it was too late. Those ones I feel guilty about. But anybody I've talked to, then it's the ball's in their court, and it's up to them.
Yeah. And the other ones where it's too late, look them up and say, hey, would you give me another chance?
Yeah, that's for sure. Well, it's been a wonderful 14 years, and the next 14 are only going to be better. So this is my husband's and my retirement plan, and we plan on traveling in the motorhome and just spreading Nikken around and helping wherever we need to go to help people.
Me too. Yeah, the next 22 years for me too. I'm pumped, and the thing that's fun is you talk to a new person, it makes you younger. You just feel brand new over again, and keeps you excited. The people that live the longest and are the healthiest and are the happiest are people that are anxiously engaged in a good cause. And I'll tell you, this is a good cause. This is worthy of your all. And so you guys are listening to it. Do check this out. Just give it your most serious investigation. If you're already in, just decide one more time that, you know what, I could raise my game. I could talk to one more person. Why not go 6 a day? But hey, love ya, and hopefully you'll have a wonderful Nikken day again and again and again, and then you'll have a wonderful, productive, abundant Nikken life. Let's do it.
That's one thing at Nikken too is not many businesses you can start in your later life and know you can do it right as long as you want to, because there's no long as you can talk to people, you can keep sharing no matter what your consequences are or your conditions are.
True. I've met people that were in their 80s and they said, I'm getting in this because I want to build a legacy.
Yeah, you can't do that in the corporate world for sure.
Heck no. Have you got a call to action at all that you'd like to share, Leanne? Or?
Well, I'm one thing. Over 14 years, I've did a lot of retailing. I'm going to go back to all those people, like we talked about before, and just tell them what's new. Just get at it and get to work. That's all. I can no more procrastinating.
Yeah, looking forward to doing some calls with you.
Okay, and thank you very much for having me on the call.
Thank you. Take care, everybody.